Johnny good luck to Johnny Canuck and all the Allied soldiers, they're fighting day by day.
The Great War has been going on for over a year, and soldiers from all corners of the globe continue to fight. It's an ongoing tragedy, one that would later be written in the history books as one of the most costly conflicts, of which over 20 million lives were lost. This building you see here is Ramsgate's Granville Hotel. Now, of course, during the war the hotel business was not flourishing, but grand buildings such as these are perfect for something else: a hospital. And from the 28th of September 1915, that is what Granville Hotel became. A hotel by nature has plenty of beds, kitchens, event spaces, and the Granville was also a spa hotel with over 25 different kinds of baths, which enabled the wounded to have hydropathic treatments. As a hospital, the Granville could accommodate up to 809 wounded soldiers, and primarily treated those suffering from shell shock, nerve injuries, and injuries to bones and joints. The Granville Special Military Hospital was a Canadian overseas hospital. At the time, Canada was still a part of the British Empire. Self-governing, but legally, as Britain was at war, so was Canada, leading to the immobilisation of Canadian troops. And at the time Canada joined the war, it had a regular army of 3,110 men. But within a few weeks, that had grown to over 32,000. From there, the first soldiers made their journey across the pond, at the time in their largest convoy to ever cross the Atlantic. The 1st Canadian Division reached France in February 1915. The division took over a section of the line in French Flanders, and it was there that they faced the realities of dirt, disease, death. Only those lucky few made it to Blighty, to places such as Granville, to recover, and many men then proceeding to bravely go back to the front lines. The hospital's location on the coast of Kent was ideal, at least in terms of getting the wounded there, but it left it in a vulnerable position. Ramsgate was the first town in the country to experience a Zeppelin raid, and was bombed multiple times throughout the war, endangering the hospital, the wounded, and the nurses. And so, on the 18th of August 1917, the hospital was on the move. One day later, the 19th of August, the Granville Special Military Hospital of Buxton, Derbyshire, was taking on its patients from Kent. Now over 200 miles further north, the military hospital was now safe from bombing raids, and Buxton was really an ideal location for a lot of reasons. First of all, Buxton is fairly remote, but with train lines heading north and south. It's rather discreet, and there's not many major military bases or activity nearby. The town has plenty of amenities, and with that, a lot of empty hotels. And to top it all off, it's a spa town with plenty of baths for treatments. So practically, overnight, Buxton turned into a hospital. Because unlike in Ramsgate, the hospital here kept expanding. The main building at the heart of it all is the Grand Palace Hotel, consisting of over 180 rooms with far larger facilities than that of the previous Granville, as well as it being located right next to the train station and the already established Devonshire Hospital. The picture shown now is from the back of a postcard, from Tom, a man whose occupation is not known, but he wrote this to his mother. To Mum, with love and kisses, this is one of the hotels we are making into a hospital. Your Tom. But the Palace isn't the only hotel that got converted. Another, on Hartington Road, was the Buxton Hydropathic. having 260 rooms as well as more specialised hydropathic equipment for treatments. And these types of treatments were provided a lot at the hospitals. This war diary from January 1918 states that 13,500 electro and hydro treatments had been done in a month at the hospital. Another building included in the complex is the Empire Hotel. Primarily, the hotel was converted into a barracks, but a part of the hotel was still used as an annex to the Special Military Hospital. The Empire, after all, having 300 rooms, so there was plenty of space for both. The final hotel included in the complex is the Peak Hydropathic Hotel, which had 275 beds for patients, and again has specialised hydropathic equipment. This included, but not shown on the video, massages, mechanical vibration, high frequency apparatus, radiant heat, douches, contract baths, and cataphoris electric cautery. The latter being a method pre-antibiotics to close up wounds, which unfortunately we now know isn't very effective. The Peak Hydro Hotel is also labelled in some books and on the picture shown as the Canadian Red Cross Specialised Hospital. I believe the hospitals are incorporated as one, but the British government took hold of the buildings for the Granville, whilst the Red Cross leased the Peak Hydro and started taking patients 2 years prior in 1915. Across the 4 hotels there would have been space for over 1,100 patients, which is a massive hospital. Now, in order for a hospital that size to operate, of course, you need an incredible team of doctors and nurses, whom also had their own hospital, Northwood, a house up the road from the Palace Hotel. It was converted into a hospital prior to the arrival of Granville, just like the Peak Hydro, and was renamed as Northwood Hospital for Sick Sisters. This is where Canadian nursing sisters from all over received treatments either from illness, wounds, or even forms of mental illness. However, the latter was seldom spoke, and those who took residence for such had the evidence hidden. Nursing sister Ellen Patry, shown now, was admitted to Northwood between the 21st of June and the 5th July 1918 for nervous debility, after working in a frontline hospital. A letter written at her time at Northwood, she states, "I had as many as 233 cases, and only a youngster and convalescent to help me. Then I was put in an operating room, and, as I told you, we 3 girls had 291 operations in 10 nights. So that gives you a fair idea of a week's work. It was wonderful, though, and the experiences of a lifetime, and I'm so glad I was there. I was so that I did not miss it." Just like those who went to fight, the nursing sisters behind them risked their lives also. Ada J. Ross from Toronto served as a sister in England and France, but unfortunately fell ill, and passed from her condition on the 12th of July 1918. At the time she was at Northwood. 3 days later, a funeral procession was held in her honour from St John's Church to Buxton Cemetery. The hospital, as the war continued, started receiving more and more patients not under the category of wounded the hospital specialises for, and the war diary shown previously states that. This list now comprising of injuries out of that scope, including gas poisoning and trench fever. A few pages after, a repeat request for antigens for certain patients, showcasing that supplies had also become an issue, as well as an acknowledgement that they are understaffed, particularly in the kitchens. Amid what is a terrible state of affairs, the many people who are now patients across Buxton are still human, and entertainment was a key part of the hospital's operation. The war diary states that frequent entertainments had been provided at the Palace and Buxton Hydro. Concert parties had come from Liverpool and Manchester, as well as local artists who had been generous in their efforts. Lecturers had been brought from London, Manchester and Sheffield to educate, and a cinema machine was also installed in the palace come February 1918. There was also recreation rooms in all the buildings, and of course, being Canadian, some sports made its way across the pond, with a baseball club being founded at the time. The 11th of November 1918. The war was over, but unfortunately, the scars of which will still be felt for generations to come. The military hospital stayed in Buxton for a further 4 months after the war to allow for patients to be treated and beds free at purpose-built hospitals. During this time, the buildings also became discharge depots for Canadian soldiers. And one of the doctors who worked in the Peak Hydro was Frederick G. Banting, who would return to Canada after the war to continue research into diabetes and the use of insulin in its treatment, for which he was awarded a Nobel Prize. The very first Canadian soldiers who fought in World War I were ex-British Army who became a part of Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, and they fought in the woods near Ypres, a place that I visited called Bellewaerde Ridge. A monument to those who fought now stands atop a nearby hill. Today in Buxton we have many war memorials across the town, including a new plaque at the train station dedicated to the hospital as many arrived by train. Some Canadians stayed and made their home in Buxton, with their families still here today. The Granville Hotel in Ramsgate still exists, not quite as it was back in the day, but is now converted into flats. Palace Hotel in Buxton is still standing and operating as such. The Buxton Hydro was demolished and is now a set of council flats for the elderly. The Empire Hotel suffered a similar state, and now flats are built in its place. The Peak Hydro is now the Buxton Museum, which as of recent is permanently closed. And finally, Northwood House is now sat vacant, but in a good state. If you'd like to learn more about these buildings, links will be down below to those videos, and please excuse myself for repeating this topic on those videos. However, I'd like to see acknowledgement on the buildings that still stand, as there's not a lot, as far as I'm aware, informing the public of the great operation that took place in Buxton, and for Ramsgate as well. It was such a huge accomplishment setting up a facility as large as Granville, and of course, a mass amount of respect to the brave soldiers and incredible nurses that came and went through the hospital. Hello, and thank you for making it all the way through this video. It's a bit of a long one. I've taken a lot more time, and hopefully it shows. It should be a bit more higher quality. As you can see, I have also cleaned one full wheelbarrow for this week off of Heathgrove Park. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave any thoughts that you have down below in the comments, and until next time, ta-ra.